But I'm okay. So, you know, I see that we're editor. Am I surprised given the papers due tomorrow? Right? So congratulations to all of you for being here. I'll make sure, as my 11 students know, well, maybe we're going to do okay. What I always say when I see it suddenly before that is that I make sure I film and picture what I'm covering today. Reward you and to make you afraid of missing out. More and more people are coming in here, so I'm not going to faces. Anyway, can't wait to hear about the papers. Kick ass, enjoy, have fun. I unfortunately, because of being overextended, I have had to change my office hours from today to Thursday. I didn't realize that was that I'm abandoning the paper. But unfortunately, not very many of you come and see me anyway. And let me encourage you to come and see me in my office hours. I like knowing who you are, and Ida and I had a great talk. So congratulations to the few that are going to see me, but others should come and get to know the university and the way that you can have other relationships with your professors show up in office hours. Okay, so I highly encourage you to do that in all your classes. But certainly come see me. But I'm not going to have them today because I have to go off and get another security lecture somewhere. But I will have them Thursday. Entirely. But I hope not. I take good care of myself. Wash my hands all the time. Okay, so we're finally getting back to painting. And that means we're going to Monet. The only painting you have dealt with in pretty extensiveness in this course, of course, has been, I hope you know, Manet. And a little bit of me telling you just 2 seconds about Kaya Butt. But now we're about to start a painting unit, which I love. And this looks like shit up here. What the hell? Okay, well anyway, it really is terrible. All of you guys just close your eyes and sort of see it. And hopefully at the back it looks a little less pixelated. Anyway, we're about to go into painting. And, you know, I think it's really interesting. It's very different than when I used to teach this course where painting, again, as I've told you, and in other classes taught by other professors, so for time, painting would be the dominant medium throughout the course. And so we would be long past this moment in early Monet. But I do like you to have some sense of, I kind of like the fact that you have some sense of the complexity of the Second Empire and of a whole way of media when you look to Monet's first painting at a salon of 1865, and it's on your list. And after luncheon on the grass by Manet, which we'll get to in a minute. This is the Seine Estuary at Honfleur. It's a little, you know, I'm giving you centimeters here. You don't know 100 centimeters, think of it as a yard or 15, even though it's a little smaller. So, you know, it's a 3 foot by, you know, less than 3 foot painting. So, you know, size is going to matter. I'm about to show you a lot of paintings, and we better keep track of when they're small and when they're large. This is a medium-sized painting. He shows it at the Salon of 1865. What is Manet showing at the Salon of 1865? Olympia. Okay, so this is 2 years after Manet's work was rejected and sent to the Salon des Refusés, right? The Salon of Rejected Works, Luncheon on the Grass, etc. And now we're looking at what Monet, a younger generation artist, how he shows who he is in his first salon picture. Obviously, those of you who took 11 with me know that we can just say a whole bunch of things right away. What do we need to say about Monet's beginnings? The simplest thing. Yeah. Landscape. Thank you, Keith. We're looking not at a history painting. We're looking not at a portrait. We're not looking at a genre, everyday scene. We're looking at a man who imagined his career in the terms of landscape painting. Okay? You would never say Manet was a landscape painter, right? Remember, and we'll be looking at it, the background of Luncheon on the Grass, a studio confection, if ever there was one. This is making claims to be a good landscape painting, and indeed it wins a medal. Okay, so while Manet still seems like Mr. Rule Breaker, Monet gives viewers and the academic, the jury this painting, and he wins an award. What are the claims of landscape painting? What do you believe when you look at this, besides the fact that it's terribly pixelated? Basic stuff. Izzy? No. What's your name? Say it again?
Mel?
Mel. Thank you, Mel.
You could think it's like a real place.
You can think of a real place. Thank you.
Contemporary life.
Contemporary life? Yeah. How much do you want to put the emphasis on life? A contemporary scene. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. This is a scene from everyday life. But life can imply a greater prominence of human figures. Charlotte?
You can really like feel and hear the wind and the ocean spray.
Yeah, it gives you some sense that it is capturing what being there is like, right? With that sense of Charlotte being right, that I'm sure the reason it got a medal was that it seemed to have a certain freshness and capacity to convey climate. Jeremy?
It seems kind of boring and safe.
Seems boring and safe. That is definitely how many art historians have seen this picture, but it is an accomplishment, right? I think Charlotte's right that there is a sense of climate. Someone else said a specific place, and remember the title has specificity in it as a place. A specific climate, a specific place. What else should we say about specificity here? What else is specific? Yeah.
The cropping?
Are you Izzy?
Yeah.
Yeah. The cropping is interesting. I'm not sure it draws attention to the fact of where it crops, but yeah, it does give us a certain view, right? And decides where the shore should be, how much of where the lighthouse should be, how much of the canvas should be watered. What else is specific in this painting? Yeah.
He's pretty into details, unlike the economically painted like in Olympia.
Yeah, yeah. So that one's tough, but I know exactly what you mean. While Manet really foregrounds that he's going to, as economically as possible, give you a description that functions. Here, there seems to be some pleasure in really. There are a lot of seats up here. A lot of detail. Hard to see up here for us first row people. But yeah, what that boat is like, what those sails are like, how many men are rowing. Alec, no, you're yawning and doing this. You weren't raising your hand. Okay. Yeah.
I was gonna say again the light, maybe especially on that like one boat in the back.
Yeah. Okay, so we use the word climate. But specific lighting conditions is really important here. And what is a corollary of specific lighting conditions? Remind me your name, sir.
Me?
Yeah.
Ferris?
Ferris, yeah, not Paris. Right. What else is specific here?
I think like compared to Luncheon on the Grass, the
By Manet, yeah.
yeah, the dimensions or like the depth is more reasonable.
Yeah, no,
So,
you're
like, the things
absolutely
that are
right.
far
There's a
away.
much more successful illusion of depth, of seeing, the ocean going to the horizon. Jeremy?
In terms of lighting, it's almost like a specific moment in time.
Thank you. That's what I wanted. To add to the specificity of the place, the specificity of the climate, the specificity of the lighting. There's also a sense of specificity of time. This isn't just any moment at this place, right? It's not sort of like you can't tell if it's noon or deep evening or dusk or dawn. There are paintings where there are no clues to that. I'm not saying I know what time it is, but you believe you're seeing it at a specific time when the clouds were like that, when the light broke through to that sailboat, right? And that on a particular kind of day, particular kind of weather. So we're using details and we're using specificity, the word I would also bring to you, and it was brought up by the person who just talked about Manny's Olympia and the economy there, and your name is again? Eleanor. Besides that, description, that's where I was trying to go. A little bit of that dead sick head. Description. Description seems to be one of the things he's saying he can do for you, right? He can describe the world. He can make you feel the pleasures of seeing a place. And you have to imagine without our Google Maps and James Bond movies taking us all over the world, this painting could offer glimpses of other places and a sense of all the pleasures of going to such a place. All right. The genre of landscape then has very particular expectations, and he's fulfilling them. Okay? He's fulfilling them with his masterly description of the water, the sky, the clouds, the season, perhaps the time, the climate, the particular kind of lighting, etc. He's good at it. And he's been trained by a man named Boudin, who here at the beach of 1863. And what I need to tell you is that Boudin paintings are about this big. Okay? So this masterful kind of lumps that suggest people at the beach, they're like this. Okay? They are strokes of paint. But you see the kind of emphasis, even though we see people on the beach, we see a sense of freshness, of light, of the pleasure of this place. It's much more populated than the one that Monet gave us, but you see that he was trained by a man who did what others might call a lesser genre. Remember, landscape is a lesser genre to those who care about history painting. Remember that Manet is really basing his entire career and reputation on his claims to modernizing history, to modernize history painting, right? History painting, Manet. You gotta say that right away. Landscape, Monet. These are their beginnings, their frames, their assumptions, and it will really determine the nature of their art, okay? So, a very modest painter of genre scenes set outside at the beach, Boudin. They're great. They're riveting. You're in a room with a bunch of huge satyrs and nymphs and all sorts of 19th century academic painting, and on the wall over here, this little view of the beach. And you haven't even looked at all that shit over there. Right? Okay, so I want you to, I in no way agree that this is a lesser painting. But there is a modesty and also a sense of different conventions, expectations, requirements coming out of landscape and genre painting than coming out of history painting. And remember, this painting is, 3 times the size of the landscape by Monet we just saw. Okay, and whatever it would be, 50 times the size, I don't know, of the Boudin. Okay. Obviously, Manet doesn't think he has to do the same job. We don't know what
season is in this fictional place? I guess it's lushly summer. What time of day? What freshness? Is that what we see here? I don't think it's freshness per se. And it is so much a painting that is set outside, but set outside as the kind of frame to those figures, right? The kind of fabrication of a space in which those figures are the reason the painting was painted. Well, given Monet started, first of all, at the Salon of Olympia, where Manet is like totally the kick-ass father of modern art to this peer group of his, he gets a little more ambitious. He's a little bit more like, I think maybe I can show Manet what he's done wrong. What would Monet think Manet had done wrong? Well, everything that I just said about the difference between that scène en fleur and this picture. And he would say, you are supposed to be the father of modern painting, and you make a painting that looks so not modern to me. It looks art historical, it looks citational, it looks artificial, right? What is modernity like, Monet argues? Modernity is the world we actually live in, not still being in the studio looking at Titian and Giorgione and Raphael prints. Modern painting shouldn't be about art of the past. Modern painting should be about us, right? You've heard this before. You heard it about David's over the tennis court. After the French Revolution, we don't do the past anymore. We don't do the Haratai. We do us, right? Well, again, a new moment, much later, 70 years later or so. But again, the same imperative. How do we make painting be about us? Shouldn't be about the past. Shouldn't be about past art. So Monet comes up with something so incredibly ambitious, and I tell you, that he, what the hell here? How did I do that? Oh, I just can't believe I worked on this morning, and I did something so stupid on the handout. Okay. No, well, yeah, it's stupid. Okay, we're looking at Monet's, now we're going to look at Monet's Luncheon on the Grass. Notice the exact same title. We're looking at what I'm mad at is I put that David over the tennis court fragment in the wrong place. You see how I separate Monet Luncheon on the Grass from all of that indented information that's about the Luncheon on the Grass. Do you see it? Just move the David down. Okay, put it around. Okay, so we're looking at the Moscow sketch. But what I tell you about Monet's Luncheon on the Grass is that he intended it to be 4 by 6 meters. What is that? 13 by 20 feet. Remember who his master was? And then he got, in his medal-winning, award-winning landscape, and now he's looking at Manet's Luncheon on the Grass, the guy who showed Olympia when he was showing a landscape, and he's saying, let me show you what a contemporary, modern Luncheon on the Grass would look like. We're looking at a small painted sketch that is all we have of the complete painting, so that immediately tells you what you gotta know. Why am I showing you this? Sniffle, sniffle, is this Trump landing here? What does it tell you that I'm showing you a small painted sketch? Yeah.
Did you not finish it?
Something went wrong. Okay? He has, what did I say the size? 13 by 20 foot canvas that he's planning to paint. And I'm once again, like in the execution of Maximilian, I'm going to have to show you versions and fragments. That's why there's that whole indented section there about the different things I'm going to show you. But let's talk for a minute. Well, let's begin here quickly. Let me say I'm showing you Watteau from the early 18th century. I don't know how many of you know his magnificent paintings that are also like this. Okay. And Boudin. I'm showing you small paintings of genre scenes of people sitting around, of life, purportedly. There's an aristocratic kind of fantasy there on a stage-like space. But the sense of showing people from the present enjoying themselves. That's what Watteau and Boudin have in common. Neither of them history painters, right? But Monet's work is going to be inspired by the sense that we could blow up a genre scene, a scene of everyday life. We don't need to look at Titian and Raphael and Giorgione like Manet did in his paintings over and over. We don't have to make it be about past art, right? We can make it be about ourselves. But what is so deviant here, and I want you to remember this, is the size of the picture. When else did I tell you what was deviant was the size of the picture? What other artist in the first introductory lecture? Ellen. Courbet. Burial at Arnon. Stonebreakers. Peasants of Flagy. Turning the description of present-day life and present-day groups of people into the scale of history painting. I thought of making those 2 postage stamps so you can get a sense of how but I wanted you to see them, how totally petite they are relative to this ambition. So this is really partly an argument today about scale, which you know from my book Colossal is something I care a lot about. I'm really interested when scale puts pressure on people or when it signifies. Well, here we have a very simple case. History painting is huge, landscape and genre scenes are small. And Monet's gonna, like Courbet, attempt to blow up a genre scene. Okay. What does he think he's done to the Manet? Well, partly, I think you see that the setting looks less like a studio setting. He doesn't have the artificiality and the great dissonance, right, of the nude figure and the citational quality of the men, relating to old prints. Instead, these are people relaxing in the forest of Fontainebleau, a particular forest. I'll get to that in a minute. And he's showing off, what would Renee notice? Showing off contemporary costume, lavish costume. As in Manet's, we have one of these long-legged contemporary guys. But clearly this is about a picnic, about being fashionable, about being in the forest. It's actually a specific place. He's arguing that we should make something that better resembles what we actually do. This looks like Manet put a still life in the foreground of his studio. This looks like maybe what we'd want for a picnic. Okay, that pretense to it being actual. All right. We're going to go more into all of that in a minute. But I'm showing you a black and white of the Moscow sketch to say what we've got left at the large scale. This patch and this patch. Fragment. Okay, so here is large scale, that one, and this one. What goes wrong? Well, partly what goes wrong is the same story of David's Oath at the tennis court, right? Partly what goes wrong is when you decide you're going to paint 13 by 20 feet, that is a hell of a lot of work, right? You have to succeed in making a huge painting and sticking to it. But of course, Monet in no way is going through David's process. He's not imagining every one of his figures nude first and doing a preparatory drawing. Nonetheless, he's taken on a very ambitious painting that he will fail to be satisfied by and will cut up. Let's look at how he begins. His study of the forest at Fontainebleau. What size is it? About, okay? Small painting. He goes to the place he's going to use as his setting, and he, as a landscape painter, paints the place, paints the site. And everyone in 11 knows I love this painting, right? Who's had 11 with me? I think this is a masterful painting. I would love to be able to paint landscape like this, and I try and it's shit. And Monet is great at this. He's a great landscape painter. And why do I think it's so great? Well, it combines this incredible simplification of the forest becoming that gray mass, that gray-blue mass as it goes into the distance. The composition is great with the road cutting across at the horizon and then the descent into this atmospheric difference of far away. He somehow, at the same time as simplifying it so beautifully, he gives us a sense that we see and can feel the dampness of that forest and what it's like to see actual specific leaves fall into the ground. You feel like they're wet maybe. You feel like you know what birch's bark is like, right? Wow, this guy's good. He's good and he's economical, all right? And he's willing to take on chaos. Can you imagine if I made you all go outside and try to paint leaves that have fallen onto the grass? Do you know how goddamn hard that would be to convince anyone and to decide, okay, you know, of course there's a chapstick. That'll do us good. But anyway, do I describe what a leaf is like? And then do it again, but if I describe what a leaf is like, sort of like I know it, can I make it seem like it's folded the way it fell? The way some of these leaves seem to have folded? Do I know how to make light and dark? How much information do you need to suggest a leaf? Well, he's giving us very little detail per se, but his flickering brush, and think of this painting being this size. That means the brush that touches these, it's narrow, maybe 1/4 of an inch brush, maybe smaller. You know how you can get them all different sizes. He is taking his brush and flicking it. They're getting ochre and red. Okay? Isn't that fun? Don't you like how Monet helps you feel like you could paint? When you can't. I can do that. I can't not do it on the canvas. Okay, so he's taking a small brush, and what are some of the words we would describe here? Spontaneity, improvisation. Not like sitting down and figuring out, as in Oath of the Tennis Court, what kind of line drawing you need to do first to make painting. This is based on color, based on pigment, and it's based on his sheer facility. The fact that he is really good at this. Okay, so he starts with a landscape, and then he tries to populate it. And he tries, you know, the famous thing that art historians have always talked about with Monet, and you can tell I get kind of tired even rehearsing it, but it's important to point out, is, you know, look at the way he dapples the light here into patches of light. He makes the rest of the tablecloth a kind of blue-gray. The way he's not relying on just black to white spectrums, but using color to suggest the vividness of light and shadow. That's what he's aspiring to do. But if you're a landscapist and you start with this forest at Fontainebleau painting, what does it mean to try to make this picture 13 by 20 feet? Okay? Well, there's a whole bunch of problems. Can an 11 person say what problem he has vis-a-vis models? Yes.
He uses the same ones for every.
He does, as I always say, he doesn't have enough friends. He takes them out on the train to Fontainebleau, and he doesn't have 12 friends or whatever. What were you going to add?
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah. He's actually relying, let me go back to a bigger version of it. Where do I have the big version? He's actually relying on his friend Basile, who's a wonderful painter, and talked about in Anne Wagner's article that I'm asking you to read, why Monet gave up figure painting. Well, maybe one of the reasons he gave it up is he didn't have enough friends. Here's Basile. Every very tall, skinny guy in the picture is his friend Basile. Probably this guy too. And the women are mostly, if not totally, his girlfriend Camille. Okay, Camille, put on a white dress, put on a gold dress, put on another white dress, put on another white dress, put on a gray dress. We don't know that he had that many costumes. He was broke. He might have taken the costumes from fashion plates, but he's having Camille pose again and again, and Basile pose again and again. So, right away, he's broken all the rules of the Scène en Fleur. He's telling Manet, I'm going to paint a natural picture of a luncheon on the grass, right? I'm going to paint one as how we are out there. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to show you a real landscape. I'm not going to do the artifice of the studio. I'm not going to have models just posing for me. And it turns out he is completely artificially constructing this composition from only a couple models, okay? Most prominently Basile. Okay, so, or Camille, right? Yeah. Spelled like you might see it as Camille. All right, so that's one problem, not enough models. But as I point out when I teach Impressionism in 11, there's also a really different problem. And that is due to blowing it up large, okay? Because once you blow the picture up large, I want you to imagine if this is a 13 by 20 foot painting, how many feet are covered by foliage in this painting? Oh shit. And as I always say, can you imagine waking up in the morning and saying, oh shit, I gotta cover another 2 by 3 feet of leaves today. When you paint large, you're not going to be painting spontaneously, right? In that way that we see him at the Forest of Fontainebleau. That improvisational, spontaneous way. Once you blow it up large, first of all, the canvas is at his studio, right? It's only the small pictures that are out at Fontainebleau. So he does those sketches and he goes back home and he tries to blow it up large. It is really hard to blow up the improvisational freshness that we saw both at Scène en Fleur and in the Forest at Fontainebleau, to blow it up large in a painting that's 13 by 20 feet. Do you see how it becomes methodical up there at the upper left? Right? Do you see, and you know, now we're talking about brushes that are like this wide. Right. Tedium. Or look at a detail like this. What does blowing it up large do to the way he describes the figures? Okay, and remember, he's not a figure painter, but he's trying. He wants, you know, the guy, we have to say, is ambitious. He's a landscape painter trained by Boudin, and he wants to beat Manet at his game, say, I'm more modern than you. And to do so, Basile was a very tall man, but in a 13 by 20 foot painting, I guess this guy is like 6 feet tall. What do you have to do when you paint a 6 foot tall person? So it's the same dilemma as this. Let me go back. Look what happens to the paint strokes in something blown up large. What's happened here? It's a big patch of a single color, right? He's like filling in a patch of blue on his shoulder. It is something you could easily translate into a silk screen, right? Just cut out shapes on darkness. He cannot sustain that sense of his eye responding to the stimulus of the scene and finding a way to translate it into brushstrokes that we believe we see in Forest at Fontainebleau and the Scène en Fleur, right? Instead, guess what? When you do 13 by 20 foot paintings, you gotta compose them. You gotta draw things up large. You gotta fill them in. The paint stroke simply cannot be this. Right? It's like, you must have felt like a moron painting everything. Right? That is not attentive, responsive, spontaneous, contingent, improvisational painting. That is filling up a billboard. It doesn't work. The painting never is finished. He's learned a very important lesson. One, be a little humble, dude. Going from Boudin, your instructor, to 13 by 20 feet. What were you thinking? He's also learned he simply can't complete a history painting of contemporary life at that scale. He's not trained to do it, but it's also not interesting as a painter to him. So he comes up with a compromise in his next painting, which is Women in the Garden, which is more like, I think 6 by 7 feet. So not 13 by 20, but 6 by 7, about. I can tell you the centimeters, I should have to. And this is a finished painting, and he's happy with it. Okay? Who do we see in it? Camille. Do we see anyone else? No. It may look like it, but Camille poses for all the figures, I'm pretty sure. And it's a painting that he does in the backyard of a house he's renting. So now it's not that great divide between the forest at Fontainebleau sketch, at this thing you can carry it on a train and then you go back to your studio and try to do something the size of this wall. Now he's putting a moderate size, but still large, ambitious canvas outside, in the garden. So that's going to allow him to have at least some better relationship to the kind of spontaneity of his earlier pictures. And he's so determined, and we call this plein air painting, painting outdoors in the air, right? And this is a plein air painting in the way that Luncheon on the Grass wasn't, by Monet, okay? Because he's actually painting it outdoors. And what does he devise so that he can paint the painting really just looking at the scene? He builds a big trench and a device of pulleys. Why? Monet, why? Any ideas for those who haven't worked with me and haven't heard this stuff before? A trench and pulleys. Yeah, Jeremy. It's to raise and lower the canvas so he can reach the upper part and the lower part from the same point of view. So I'm looking at this group of people from here, and I'm painting the center of the picture. And then I want to paint the lower part of the picture, but I don't want to change my point of view. I don't want to get up on a ladder to do this part and look down on all of you, right? I need to look at you always in the same direction, but have the canvas available to me. So he literally devises this trench and pulley system so that he can capture what he sees. This is absurd. Especially when he only has one girlfriend. The pretense that he's capturing it just as it is and he's not going to distort it by climbing up on a ladder and getting back down is again pretending that he can bring the requirements of good plein air landscape painting to figurative painting, right? And that this will be fresh and real and right. Again, it so overlooks the contradiction that he's composing a picture. He has one model, And he's creating relationships between models that are very complex and beautiful. But he's making this shit up. Okay? When he has, and we love this painting for the ways in which the the little dappled light, remember the sailboat in Senadon Flera? That little moment that's brilliantly lit. Well, here between the leaves comes light, right? And up there, those funny light apricot patches. He's using color to tell you about light and shadow, not just a black to white spectrum, brown tan spectrum. And he's using color so that the gray of this dress is slightly greener than this more lavender light gray of her dress. Okay, he's using a set of color relationships that are really fresh and vivid and wonderful. But he's making up relationships between figures who did not stand near one another. Right? He's having to fabricate. He's having to compose. Even as he's doing this all day. Right? So you're introduced to the peculiarity of Monet. He's so sincere, he's so naive, he's so ambitious, and he's so masking the contradictions of what it is to be a painter. And that's what you all love in Impressionist painting. A bullshit artist. Oh dear. They're not all bullshit artists. Nobody paints a painting without making interpretive decisions, composing, constructing, deciding how to simplify, deciding where to put the masses of foliage. You know, this notion that somehow Impressionism was just what the eye sees, translated into the freshness of those marks. Painting is a deeply artificial task. You have to compose this weird oil stuff on a flat canvas and have it somehow signify, represent what you see. And always what you see is so much more complex than anything you're going to put down. So you decide what you care about, right? At every point, every painter is deciding what they care about. Here's the comparison that people use to celebrate Monet's color. This is Tissot, Tissot, good friend of Dugas, French painter who has a very successful career in England, Portrait of Two Sisters, 1863. And I hope you can see the difference in how they handle those dresses. Okay? Tissot is using a grayscale. Right? The bright white versus the grayer white in both dresses. So, there is some little bit of yellow defects in it, but he's assuming kind of a scale of white to slightly darker tones, as opposed to that. Right? Again, you may not be able to see it so well, but there really are very different tonal values to that light gray and to this color. All right? And look at how simply he puts the detail of that pattern on the dress. He doesn't do this kind of extraordinary attention to detail as, transparency, as various kinds of patterning. This is locked in. In some ways, we could say he learned from his failure in Luncheon on the Grass. Remember that blue shoulder? He learned that, he could conceive of whole areas of light as shapes. Because that's what happened in Luncheon on the Grass. You can't just note an optical effect of lighting hitting that man's shoulder without realizing it actually is a shape. And when he gets to Women in the Garden, he doesn't just improvise in a way more like this. Right? Every moment, just trying to kind of capture shading. And he's blocking it in. You see how you could silk screen this better than that? Right? You have to cut it out and make a poster. Okay. Well, I've assigned to you a wonderful and kind of eccentric article by my former colleague Ann Wagner. It was really fun to read it again this morning. She's funny. Right? And, you know, I think she's great. I think she's funny though. You know, she's the partner, intellectual partner and romantic partner of Tim Clark. And there's a shared, you know, I see on this paragraph on the first page, you know, my propositions read rather baldly, I realize. And may appear more ambitious than seems justifiable given their necessarily speculative grounds. She'll just do that kind of like, I know I'm reaching far, but I'm going to tell you I know it so that you keep your mouth shut while you follow me in this argument. And she's focusing on this painting, and I love the title, Why Monet Gave Up Figure Painting. And I think she draws our attention to a whole number of circumstances. Monet is really easy to describe only as the eye, only as Mr. Naive plein air painter. We don't tend to think about Monet's psychology. Manet forces our hand. Like, what the hell's going on here? What's his issue with this Victorine woman? Well, this is a painting that is of bourgeois domesticity, okay? And as I tell you, it's from 1868. So all this time, by the way, we're before the Franco-Prussian War and the Commune. Okay, we're about to jump over that bar with the next lecture. But today we're in the 1860s, in the Second Empire. And he's constructing a scene of bourgeois domesticity. And very rightly points out that with the open chair in the foreground, this is the site for him to sit and for us to sit. We sit in the place of the missing father as we enter the picture, right? And we see a mother and a child, a servant, and another woman leaning against the window. We see the pleasures and fecundity of the bourgeois table, like, you know, that one in the Forest of Fontainebleau. I do not think broke Monet taking his friend up to Fontainebleau and piecing together enough money for the train fare, had all the cakes and stuff, you know, and the picnic thing. But here's that same sense of abundance with two open chairs here, which right there complicates things. The doll that Jean actually had, because the boy is his son. And as she teaches you, this is a picture that's fabricating his own family, his own domestic life, with his son at the center. But it's all messed up. Because it turns out that the mother with the son here is played by a neighbor. That woman is not the mother of that baby. Who's the mother of that baby? The woman at the window. Who is that? Camille, who's been modeling for him for a long time and gave birth to a baby, Jean, in 1867. And this is, let me remind myself, no, not 1867. I have the date of his birth. Well, he's just a year old. Okay, who is Camille after all? What Ann Wagner teaches you, I don't know actually how well she teaches you this. Let me tell you. Camille was a model, an artist model. She's the daughter of a merchant. And he met her as a model in 1865, the year of Olympia. The year of the dominance of Victorine Meurent as the muse of Manet. In Luncheon on the Grass, in Olympia, and now Monet meets Camille, and he's got like his female model, right? And he's got a painter, as you've seen, over and over and over again, and she is, right after they meet, going to bear, you know, within 2 years, bear his son. But they are not married. And his family is entirely disapproving. And he's continually hiding Camille's existence from his parents, from his father, who disapproves. So it is a clandestine relationship. It is an illegitimate son. It is a partner to whom he's not married. It is far more bohemian than Monet ever would want you to believe by this picture, right? Unlike Manet, who says, yeah, I know I'm an aristocratic dandy with a lot of money, but I like this bohemian thing. And I bring working class women into my studio and I strip them. And that's part of what makes me avant-garde. Right? Monet is like, we actually have a working class partner who's had my kid, and it's illegitimate, I have to hide it from my parents, and I don't want you to know. Right? Totally different response. I don't want you to know. I want to construct myself as being a happy bourgeois patriarch. All right? So I'm going to create this scene of domestic affluence and intimacy, but I'm not going to actually be able to staff it with the people in their actual relations to me. That makes much of the difference between Monet's luncheon. So we've gone from luncheon on the grass, Monet Manet, and now we're doing luncheon inside, Monet Manet. Okay, so it's again a Monet Manet pairing. She makes much of how, this is a strange and enigmatic scene by Manet. First of all, we don't have Victorine staring out at us. Instead, we have his partner's son from a previous marriage, and a servant and a man in a top hat, and a painting that constructs something that seems deviant from domesticity. I mean, like, what's going on with the armor in the chair here, right? That is a huge helmet and a sword. In a chair, do you notice the way the chair is directed? Towards you, and in it he puts his still life, as opposed to Monet's into the scene. Take your seat. This is, look at what I do in my studio setups. I lay it out for you. Like the still life in Manet's Luncheon on the Grass, right? Here is a, artist's fabrication. And a kitty cat. Is that right? Has to be. And here is this son of my partner, wife. And he kind of looks out at you, but he certainly faces you. What's he doing? Are they going to have lunch? Is it over? Is he too much on the go? He's going to grab some of that lemon and fish and just take it with him? He's posing. Posing for a picture. This is oddly like a domestic scene and a studio scene, right? And it's a scene in which the characters do not add up to the nuclear family. Right? It's not mother, son, and father. It's like three people, got both genders, older age, and then a younger guy, and yet who is related to whom? The servant can't be the mother of the dapper boy. Perhaps that's the father, but the painting typically of Manet leaves it ambiguous. It's like that riddle thing he likes in Luncheon on the Grass by Manet, right? It's like, go ahead, try to put them together. Try to figure out which one is my brother, which one I know, which one is my stepson, right? Try to even imagine I have a stepson, says Manet. I am a painter. Monet is under a different pressure. And this is, and he's been doing these figurative paintings trying to compete with Manet. And here he is in this last one we're going to spend time on. And walks us through the picture and makes the case that Monet not only was trying to deny or veil the contradictions of his own bohemian status and failure to constitute a normal nuclear family, right? Not only denies that, but she makes the case, she goes so far to say, that this is a man, let me show you what this is. Spectacular, right? He's really good. And he creates a kind of attention. But you don't know why. But it keeps you kind of awake. Like I could go to sleep while looking at that one. It's just like, can I keep up with it? What is this new thing? The bourgeoisie, and it's like too familiar. Oh yeah, they're so happy, I say. Yeah, right. That's my response. His faces that face you, even when they're not looking right at you, there is an electric vividness to them, I think. Well, compared to Manet's return gaze, Anne Wagner argues, Monet doesn't like it when his models look back. She goes so far as to say, Monet was not capable of showing the return gaze of his model, not just because he wasn't interested in that as a painter, but that he as a man found it really uncomfortable. That's her argument. She's moving between the level of art and the level of personal comfort. And she points out that Monet again and again shows people in profile or with their back to you or in three-quarters view, but that he doesn't ever do this. This is about saying, I'm comfortable with my mastery over this working class woman because she looks back and I think she's fully capable of answering my power, right? There's something here about him being comfortable with the situation of a painter and his model, right? I'm comfortable enough to make her returning stare not only be towards him, but towards all of you viewers forever. Like she's gonna look back and that's what I dig about this encounter and that's what I'm gonna paint. But Monet is kind of retreating from that in his attempt. Here's the guy I've been emphasizing as a plein air painter who wanted to paint the truthful scene and have the pulleys and go up and down, and yet he's creating these fictions, right? I have a lot of friends who picnic in Fontainebleau. I have a lot of women who come over and trounce around my garden in fancy dresses, and I have a really bourgeois domestic scene, okay, with a servant. He's a great fiction writer for all of the pretense to being a reporter, an accurate eye, etc. Okay, you getting it? The Monet Manet thing? It's pretty extreme, so you should. Okay, Redan's piece is fun. Make sure we get that done. Well, when we look at those figure paintings, we look at the last sort of large-scale figure paintings by Monet, because this is what happens next. And what do you all know about this? Do you know? What are we looking at? Anyone? It's okay if you don't know. Paris? We're looking at the frog pond, thank you. La Grenouillère. And believe me, when I gave my grad student, I needed my French native speakers to walk me through the pronunciation of that. Say it for us correctly, Alex.
La grenouillère.
That wasn't bad. Grenouillère. Grenouillère. So I tell you to say frog pond. That's what it means. Okay, and what we have is this is by Monet, and we have him going out. Think of the forest at Fontainebleau sketch. We think, and I believe Charles Harrison on this, one of our art historians, I believe him that he was going out to do sketches of the frog pond, still thinking he could imagine blowing it up into a painting of everyday life. Okay? That he was imagining these as preparatory. Right? So preparatory sketches towards a large-scale scene of contemporary life. And he goes there with his friend Renoir. I'm going to come back to these details. Oh, don't tell me I took out the Renoir. Can you believe that? No. Oh, everybody knows I don't like that. You guys have to wait for a second.
唔知做咩啲頭，我覺得好嘈。應該喺度咳咳咳，我隔離嗰個人喺度食嘢影腳。我聽下同你講，我話我隔離嗰個人喺度食嘢同埋飲腳，我覺得頂唔順。我諗我個 paper 我都頭痛，我已經寫完啦，咁大，我一定要改，我仲要改。你今日仲要執？係啊，呢啲 paper 通常都係執到最尾嗰啲。我因為仲有另外一篇我想交咗啦，我又想寫另外一篇啊，我交咗啦嗰篇，星期一琴日交咗。不過而家就係得翻呢一篇，我篇都離開先，不過嗰篇係即係點講簡單啲啊，因為佢就叫你寫揾4個學校嘅啲 sculpture， 跟住就 describe 嗰啲 compare， 唔係即係佢嗰啲 concept 嗰啲嗰節課其實佢其實點講咧？佢講到好難㗎，即係佢講到好難，但因為我而家聽唔明講乜，但係佢嗰啲 paper 即係同嗰個 GSI 要求咧又唔係即係佢啲嘢好。你知唔知？我覺得呢個好難，佢想我哋寫到好似我哋啲 reading 嗰種感覺。你有冇嗰種感覺啊？即係你睇啲 reading， 即係佢啲 reading 係難讀啲嘅。係啊，我知，即係佢係想我哋寫到我哋睇嗰啲 reading。我節課嗰個咧，雖然係好難，但係佢唔係要求你明，因為真係冇人明。啊，算啦咁樣。所有人聽完之後話，我覺得佢嗰個 course 好怪，跟住個 GSI 話係啊，真係好怪㗎而家，叫你哋睇下咁樣。跟住佢話佢個 argument， 雖然我哋話呢個係講 conceptualism， 但係佢呢篇嘢入邊係冇 conceptualism。但我知道你哋畫得好辛苦，但係我都畫唔到，所以係冇。我連嗰篇佢今個星期要寫嗰篇 discussion 我都未睇晒，我未睇晒。佢就寫一樣嘢，幾條問題嚟嘅嗰度係就係 web 係我即係一篇大概有3個問題，但係我未睇晒。另外篇我真係一啲都未睇。哇！黐線啊！你知今個星期睇幾多嘢？差唔多300頁紙咯。嚇！你今個點解啊？因為之前冇睇。你自己唔係係真係成今個星期就300頁紙咯。我計過㗎。今個星期淨係今個星期我話 weekend 要睇嘅嘢，即係下個星期我哋會睇300頁咯，差唔多。Scheme 啦。
I think you're more awake now, right? I'll give you a 2-3-minute chat break. That was cool. I love hearing the volume go up and up. Okay, sorry about this. Monet goes out to frog pond with his friend we call the fellow impressionists. Shit. Not very good. Anyway, Renoir. And they are sitting side by side here. Now this is really interesting in terms of impressions, the painting movement. Because there's all sorts of complexity here, isn't there? They're both outside doing plein air painting, looking at the same text with a sense that their eye is responding to the lighting effects and the ever-changing ripples of the water, and they're finding a way to translate what they see into paint. What's odd about knowing they're side by side is realizing that means it's absolutely up. Well, right? It's like slower to come up with the word. They're not forthright. I mean, they're forced to recognize that their paintings look different. That it's not just an eye and a registration, but rather it's an eye that has to translate into a hand and a set of decisions. So with Impressionism, we have both the kind of claim that you paint what you see, as in plein air painting, as in landscape painting, as opposed to composing in your studio, but you're also confronted with the differences among you. Yeah, Leo.
At this point, do they have lead tubes for paint, or are they?
They do have tubes for
Okay.
paint at this point, don't they?
Yeah.
Love having someone to help me remember. Okay. I think you can see that these are quite unlike pictures, as much as they share all sorts of assumptions about what modern painting should be like, or at least painting sketches, what plein air painting should be like. They're drawn to a scene of recreation. They're drawn to a scene of leisure, pleasure. They're drawn to a natural setting that is inhabited, not up there in the Sierras, right, in the Alps for them, not sublime landscapes of mountains and remoteness. This is a lived landscape that they turn to, one that they can get to on the train, right, and suddenly be out there recreating. This is modern recreation also. This isn't the farmer in the village who goes to fish on the weekend to get some more fish. This is bourgeois people from Paris, sometimes lower class people too, workers, and that's what Tim Clark walks you through in the chapter on landscape in his book. An array of classes converging on Lake Anza, okay? If you could get to Lake Anza by train, if you're smart enough to have public transportation, okay? Nearby, kind of domestic, recreational. They're drawn also to this incredible difficulty of painting water. So skies, water, and remember, we didn't really talk about the fact that Monet at the Seine d'Honfleur was having to paint a water that was tumultuous, that had waves. He had to come up with a way to do that. He did it so well that we didn't talk about the waves. Okay, and that's a convention. You got to decide how you're going to paint waves. Okay. Well, here too, here's this purported sitting and just painting what you see. But here too, you're coming up with conventions as much as you're pretending to an optical truth. You're coming up with how you're going to do ripples. This is worse than it would look because of the image I pulled off Google. But I hope you see that Monet is a different artist than Renoir. And you can see why I, who am sort of a bold person, and dig Manet for the boldness and simplification and economy. Monet is doing some of that. He's doing a bold, economical simplification of ripples here. Okay? He comes up with this light blue, black ochre scheme, the ochre as the reflection of the trees. And he repeats it. And it also could be silkscreen. There would be places where a color would be in between, like that tan there. But a lot of the time, if you had light blue, ochre, and black screens, maybe a white, you could come up with a graphic translation of this. He's got a graphic intelligence. You know, when he simplified those dresses of the women in the garden into shapes of lavender shading, he's showing that he can think in these kind of bold ways about patches of color that together imply something as spontaneous as the ripples of the water. Renoir, who I mock incessantly, is far less capable. He's always struggling. And there are people who would love this painting. And by the way, I get into arguments almost every time I see Tim Clark, which was recently. Renoir has to come up, he has to say, I think he's a great painter, and I have to say, we can agree to disagree on that. And then half the people at the dinner table say, I'm with Doris. Okay. He's surgeon here. You know, he's trying, he's unsure. And maybe we could say that's greater integrity, okay? I'm okay if you decide Renoir is more of a real garden situation. Because he doesn't get it down fast, right? He's like on the canvas struggling to figure out, what do I need to say here? There's a lot of green underneath the raft. And then I know there's like ripples. And look at this. This is extraordinary how quickly, improvisationally, he comes up with a convention that we could try to copy. This is the Monet trick, right? Damn, he's good. I think I can see how he did it. I think maybe if I really had the right colors mixed, I could. In fact, maybe I'll do that this weekend. See if I can do that detail in the Monet. Okay, so we have this model of painting what you see, and yet, of course, at every point having to organize it into composition. Composition is the great sort of under-uttered word by Impressionists. Okay? Once they're out there doing plein air painting and pretending that they captured in a kind of spontaneous way what they see, they're going to not draw attention to the fact that they have to decide to crop it here, to have two diagonals at either side, leading us to that circle at the center, with the boats thrusting us towards that circle. Those are compositional choices, but Monet will not speak of it as composition. Okay? The rhetoric around Impressionism will be, we paint what we see. And yet you saw it compared to Renoir, right? Renoir puts the people much closer to us. They're bigger. They're more important to him. And he is that, remember, this is the guy who's going to do the boating party and the people with dancing under the dappled lighting and the feeling. He's going to do lots of like really cozy little pink Amelie girls and, you know, all of them with a kind of lubricated, easy, sensual sociability. It's youth, it's pleasure, we just hang, we're just peachy, we just have pleasure. That is more what Renoir's attempted to do, as opposed to Monet, don't look back, Camille. Don't look at me. I know I abandoned you at the beginning of the Franco-Prussian War, but I did have you come to England where I had fled. It just took a little while, you had our baby, but you know, don't look. Don't look at me. I'm looking at clouds and ripples and, you know, water, and it's going to make a career and it's going to support our wine and our maid, okay? So don't look back. But Renoir is a much more affable, easy-tempered guy. He's actually the one more working class guy. And you can see that he's drawn to what people do there. It's without even describing them. We don't have much more information about them, but we have a sense that they're more important to defining this place than in the Renoir. And you know what, I mean in the Monet, than in the Monet. And what Tim Clark makes vivid for you is that this place was crowded. That this was like going in the heat of summer to Lake Anza, which I know you never do, but I'll still refer to it, and getting snow cones and seeing kids with their diapers on getting into the water, and they're sticky with snow cones, slippery, sticky cherry syrup, and they've got dirty diapers, and they're all right next to you, and you're trying to pretend that you're going into the water for some freshness, some relief from city life, and it's like, ew! Right? Sociability and urban parks get me to, you know, the mountains, to the remote beach. I can't take this. It's like yucky, too many bodies. And guess what? They're not my class. Right? I'm going out to the Frog Pond pretending I'm upper bourgeois, and there are all these like clerks from the department store pretending, enjoying the fact they have a day off, and they're pretending they're like me. I'm sorry, they're not like me. And I shouldn't have to share this water with them. And that's the kind of thing going on here. So Tim Clark makes vivid that there's a class issue in creating a kind of recreational classless space here. I mean, we have a top hat, but you know, Monet puts them at enough of a distance that you're not like going, ew, he didn't wash before he came here. Right? You don't know anything about these. You don't feel them pushing up on you, rubbing on you. Right? Because it becomes part of this natural setting. By the way, look at the difference between Renoir's Chartreuse and Monet's. Again and again, there's a sense of how incredibly simplifying is Monet's set of marks, right? And he just creates an ochre shape, a little bit of differentiation. And, you know, Renoir is like doing what all of us would do. The bushes have a darker part, and then it becomes a lighter part. I really hate that color green, but God, nature's just full of this green stuff. Okay. Well, we're going to move here in the next lecture. This is the Regatta at Argenteuil in 1872. And it's entirely the game of Monet that we love. Okay? Because, damn it, don't you feel like you could paint that? At least you could pretend, and I can come up here and go, orange, 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 ochre, 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 ochre. Green, 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 oh, silver, oh, green, 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 gas, blue, blue, light blue, pink. What? While we can pretend we make it, what is the set of associations? I know we're almost there, but the set of associations with seeing that painterliness. What does it make the act of painting like? Yeah.
You kind of assume it was really fast and like full of movement.
Fast and full of movement. Very helpful. Charlotte.
It kind of replicates the atmosphere of the painting itself, because it's like, it's kind of like relaxed, and like that's how you want to feel.
You know, like, why should painting be labor? Just like ease, improvisation, freshness, right? Spontaneity, some sense of confidence. Like, I want to go there. I want to paint it, and I want to go there, and I want to be confident, and I want to see pleasure, and I want painting that is not about work, not about David's oath of the tennis court, man. That is way too much work. Now, if we could just decide painting's only this, you know, and it's only this big, forget that 13 by 20 foot thing. I found out I could make paintings just like that. I don't need to put all those frog puns together, make some huge picture, and have everybody tell me it's a shit history painting. I can paint landscapes, everybody will want one. People will buy them, because I can go over a couch. All right, see you next